Good evening and welcome to the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Lower Merion Board of Commissioners. We have three meetings this evening. We have a Grants and Community Development Committee meeting, an Open Space and Township Properties Committee meeting, and a Board of Commissioners meeting. Now, before we start, please silence your cell phones. There's amplifying equipment available for those who are having difficulty hearing. The room is also equipped with telecoil technology. And later, when the floor is open for public comment, we will first take comment from those of you who are in the room. We're going to ask that you use this podium to your left. Then we will turn to anyone who is attending virtually by Zoom. When you speak, we ask that you start by introducing yourself and saying in what area of the township that you live. So we're going to start with our first committee meeting this evening, the Grants and Community Development Committee, and I recognize its chair, Commissioner Epstein.
Thank you, President Sinai. We have two items on the agenda this evening. First, I would like to make a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners authorizing a letter of support to Riverbend Environmental Education Center for an application to the DCNR Community Conservation Partnership Program grant for open space acquisition. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Whalen. Brandon, calling on you from afar, could you give us a little bit of an explanation?
Sure.
Thank you.
A nice brief explanation for you. The township received a request from Riverbend Environmental Education Center in the Gladwin section of the township for a letter of support as they seek to acquire funds from the state for a property acquisition for land that is adjacent to their property. They were recently designated as a land trust designee by the state, so they are eligible to apply for this grant program on their own. So all they are asking for us is a letter of support that they could submit with their application.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any public comment in the room on this? Thank you. Can you step up there?
Hi, good evening. My name is Sarah Collier, and I am a longtime volunteer, camp parent, and current board member at Riverbend. Riverbend appreciates the township support of their programs throughout the years, and respectfully asks if you would consider writing this letter of support. Riverbend, as part of their educational programming, has used the stream and property adjacent to Riverbend for almost 50 years, but it turns out that Riverbend does not actually own that property. The property is now up for sale, and we have the opportunity to purchase it, so we are actively fundraising and working on getting grants to purchase the property. So yes, a letter of support from the township would go a long way to helping us potentially get this a large size grant from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. So thank you for considering it.
Thank you. Any other comment in the room? Anyone on Zoom?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay. So just before we get started, I know we spoke about this briefly. I'm going to speak for a lot of us here and say we are fully in support of Riverbend as a community resource. I can speak as a parent, I can speak as a neighbor, and as a commissioner. It's fantastic work. I also really am impressed and respect the seeking out of these grants for this property. I really appreciate the work that's being done there, and I would love for us to provide a letter. So having said that, let's go ahead and, any other comments from anyone else? Any disagreement? No, oh, I love this for me. Okay, so I'm going to call the vote. Could we, all those in favor of this letter of support? And that passes unanimously. Oh, sorry, all those against. No, you're all in favor. It passes unanimously. Okay, moving on. Thank you very much to our second item. I'd like to make a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners authorizing execution of a cooperation agreement with Rosemont College of the Holy Child Jesus and the Redevelopment Authority of Montgomery County to facilitate the $1.5 million RACP Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program grant by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for renovations to the college's alumni hall and execution of an indemnity agreement with Rosemont College of the Holy Child Jesus, ensuring the township has no financial liability. Do I have a second? Thank you, Commissioner Woodring. Brandon, would you like to help us out with this one?
Yeah, another straightforward one. Rosemont College received a $1.5 million RACP grant from the state, and the RACP grant requires a cooperation agreement with the host municipality, even though that we are not part of the project. So not only do we have the cooperation agreement that Rosemont is required to have as part of its grant obligations, but also indemnity agreement, basically saying that the township has no financial liability with this project. These funds are to be used for renovating their alumni hall. I believe there are representatives of the Redevelopment Authority and/or Rosemont College there if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment in the room? This item, no? Zoom, no?
No one
Nobody?
has their hand raised.
Okay, any, oh.
President, we have a couple.
Yeah, come on up right there, sorry. Thanks for the assist.
Hi, I'm Sean Austin, I'm the controller. We have a couple members present on Zoom who can speak to questions if you had them, but I was going to introduce myself because I can't tell if they're on Zoom right now or not.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're just, if you have questions. Okay, any questions from the committee? We have no questions. All right, so I will call the vote. All those in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. There. And this passes unanimously as well. Okay, that concludes the business of Grants Community Development Committee. Thank you very much. Wait, okay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Epstein. Our next committee for this evening is the Open Space and Township Properties Committee, and I recognize its Vice Chair, Commissioner Grimes.
Thank you, President Sinai. So we have one item on the agenda tonight for the Open Space and Township Properties Committee. That it concerns a lease renewal agreement with Eldernet for the Bryn Mawr Community Center and the Ada Much Food Pantry. To get things started, I am going to move to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approving execution of a 5-year lease renewal for Eldernet operations at the Bryn Mawr Community Center and Ada Much Food Pantry. Is there a second? Thank you, Vice President Kramer. I'm now going to ask our township manager if he wants to provide a brief explanation of what we're considering tonight.
Certainly, Commissioner. As most of you know, we leased 2 buildings at the Bryn Mawr Community Center property to Eldernet for their operations. The Ada Much building, they lease the entire building, and that's where they operate their food pantry out of. And then they lease 2 floors of the Bryn Mawr Community Center for their operations. It's really their second floor and part of the first floor that they utilize, and then we share some space there for community center purposes. In the past, we've had 2 leases. One lease is due to expire at the end of this month with Eldernet for the community center floors, and the one with Ada Much has actually already expired. We worked with Solicitor High and prepared a brand-new lease incorporating both into one document, so we only have to track one document going forward. This lease that's proposed at Eldernet's request is a 5-year term, and basically just renews all of the same provisions that they've worked under over the past 10 years in the previous 2 leases. Be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. So with that, do any commissioners have any questions for the Township Manager McNeely at this point? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to open this for any public comment. Is there anyone in the public who would like to comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Anyone online?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay, any commissioners with comments, questions on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. President Sinai, that concludes the business of the Township Open Space and Township Properties Committee.
That committee. Thank you, Commissioner Grimes. Will the March 19th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Lower Merion please come to order, and all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Rossman and Mr. Bell asked to be excused, and I believe Mr. Courtney is joining us now. Mr. Bernheim. Present. Mr. Churchill.
Here.
Mr. Courtney.
Here.
Ms. Epstein. Here. Mr. Gavin. Present. Mr. Grimes. Here. Ms. S. Kramer. Here. Ms. G. Kramer. Here. Mr. Stevenson. Present. Mr. Whalen.
Here.
Mr. Woodring.
Here.
Mr. Sinai.
Here.
Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners held on February 5th, 2025, and a stated meeting held on February 19th, 2025, as distributed. Do I have a second? Thank you, Vice President Kramer. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Madam Secretary, that passes unanimously. A few announcements. The board met in executive session earlier this evening regarding the following matters: employee compensation, sewer easement litigation, and a fire company real estate matter. Cleanup weekend is being held on Saturday, April 5th and Sunday, April 6th, 2025, from 9 till 4 each day at the Township's Public Works Complex. Residents may dispose of their refuse and recycling free of charge. Proof of residency is required. Recycling must be separated from refuse, and no household hazardous waste will be accepted. Friday, April 18th, 2025, Good Friday, is a legal holiday. The Township Administration Building and libraries will be closed for business. Refuse and recycling will be collected. And lastly, the stated meeting for the Board of Commissioners for April will be held on the fourth Wednesday of the month, April 23rd. No meetings will be held on the usual third Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. With this, we want to recognize that this week is, upcoming is National Library Week, and I would like to recognize Commissioner Epstein.
I have a proclamation to proclaim. 2025 National Library Week proclamation drawn to the library. Whereas libraries spark creativity, fuel imagination, and inspire lifelong learning, offering a space where individuals of all ages can explore new ideas and be drawn to new possibilities. And whereas libraries serve as vibrant community hubs, providing access to books, digital tools, and innovative programming, ensuring that all individuals have the support they need to learn, connect, and thrive. And whereas libraries partner with schools, businesses, and organizations, connecting the dots to maximize resources, increase efficiency, and expand access to essential services, strengthening the entire community. And whereas libraries nurture young minds through story times, STEAM programs, and literacy initiatives, as well as empower job seekers, entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners by providing access to resources and opportunities that support career growth and economic success. And whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers across the country are joining together to celebrate National Library Week under the theme Drawn to the Library. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Lower Merion, proclaim April 6th through 12th, 2025 as National Library Week, and encourage all residents to visit their library and celebrate the opportunities they unlock for us every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epstein. We're now going to turn to public privilege of the floor. So this is the section of our meeting where members of the public may address the board on any non-agenda items or any other public matters in which the township has jurisdiction or authority. So let me be clear about this. If you are here to speak about something that is on our agenda for tonight, including on the consent calendar, this is not the time for you. If you're here to talk about anything else, this is a time for you to come and speak. We're going to ask that you use this podium to your left, to my right. We're going to ask that if you come up and speak to have your comments be 3 minutes or less and tell us your name and where in the township you live. If there are a group of people here who are speaking on the same topic, the usual practice of the board is that we ask you to select a spokesman or spokesperson so not everyone says the same thing over and over again, and then we'll give you more time, and we'll give you 5 minutes if you can coordinate on that. And then after we take comments from people who are here in the room, we will turn to anyone who's attending online. Yeah, don't hesitate, come on up, introduce yourself, and take it away.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Stu Friedman from Merion Station, and I'm with CALM, which is Climate Action Lower Merion, a volunteer advocacy group trying to create sustainable local solutions. And I'm here tonight to talk about banning gas-powered leaf blowers, an issue I know you know a lot about and have addressed in various ways over the years. What we are asking for is to see a ban without an ordinance for this ban this year. There was a really helpful workshop that you all held last week that I saw, and it was great to see Commissioner Kramer and the Sustainability Committee speak to this as one of the 3 priorities coming out of that committee. So we and here with some of my friends, if you would just raise your hand or stand to say that, yeah, so these are the people that we've just last minute kind of got a few people to show. I think some are here by Zoom as well, to support you, to support this initiative to make it happen now. I had the pleasure of viewing a July 2021 video of this meeting at which a number of people who are here, as well as here, spoke to this issue. That was 3 years, 8 months ago, and there was a lot of enthusiasm and optimism spoken at that time, the first day of the Sustainability Commissioner's tenure, the Sustainability Manager's role. And here we are now, 3 years, 8 months later, and while there has been some progress, the EAC put forward a memo Nancy Winkler led the charge on, and that enumerated various options, spoke to all the issues. At that same time, this was September 2023, the Sustainability Manager's Office developed a ranking of the importance of the different sustainability initiatives that were possible. Out of 56 of them, the energy transition, in which gas-powered leaf blowers is an important element, was number 2. So this is important. You have heard it all, I am sure, how the noise and air pollution has adverse health effects on workers, on our community. It degrades our quality of life. It interferes with working from home. It upsets the wildlife and the ecology of insects and other terrible things that perhaps others will want to speak to. The good news is that there are now hundreds of municipalities and some states in this country that have adopted bans. They have figured it out. Penn Environment has a great catalog of those along with other resources. So places like Montgomery County, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Princeton, many, many others have done it. And they also have examples at Penn Environment of ordinances, and we can supply you with others. So it's a movement, and there's precedent, and yes, there are issues. And, okay, the gas-powered alternative, electric, is getting better, faster, cheaper. The cost initially is greater, but the break-even point is about 2 years, and there are providers throughout our district, our region, that are now supplying this, green alternatives to gas-powered leaf blowers, and they're growing and they're successful. But there's a transition here. Change is difficult, especially, I think, for the commercial landscapers. There's a hardship for them, so they need to be helped along. In addition to our township staff in Public Works and Parks and Rec. So what can we do to help bring people along? Well, to help the commercial landscapers, we can help to educate them as to the alternatives, but also provide incentives, tax incentives, maybe grants, bulk purchase discounts. There's a lot of possibilities. This is a complex issue. We recognize that. There's some pain in change. The large properties in the West, perhaps those can be carved out. I don't know if they don't want it. But there are so many people who do want this to happen. We can help the landscapers. We can help educate the population about different ways of thinking about lawns, and not every single leaf needs to be picked up or blown away by 3 gas-powered leaf blowers. Yes, let's hear it. But and enforcement, these are issues. We get it. It's not easy, but waiting is not going to make those issues any easier. They're not going away. So I hope that it becomes a priority for this year. I applaud the transparent process of the workshop. It's really a wonderful thing to see. And now that we are more aware of how you're setting those priorities, at least I am, we're urging you to make this a priority for this year and for whatever budget implications there are for next year, because it fits squarely with our township's goals for sustainability, and it would be a great win for all of us. Thank you for your time and for your service. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I invite my friends and colleagues to come and speak if they have anything that they want to add. That is non-duplicative.
Before we go on, I'm just going to lay down a little ground rule for decorum, and I know that Dr. Friedman is a good speaker. I'm going to ask you to refrain from applauding. We know we all agree, okay? And just so we just keep the people going along. Anyway, anyone else wish to come up to the podium? Thanks.
Yes, my name is Grant Whitman, and I'm sort of the grandfather of this movement that started a long time ago, and we had obstacles then, but we don't have them now. That's this twist I want to put on this, because when we first started this, there were issues of whether a 4-stroke engine, 2-stroke engine, this, that, and the other thing, but the solution is there, and the data on health and environment has been enormously collected in my memo of April 26. I hope some of you have seen it. And it really is alarming that we are this far down the road with not having dealt with this issue. It's an issue that is absolutely the prime environmental issue for any municipality that has gas-powered blowers now, and is also a very easy solution to this, because we now have at least 20 certified lithium-powered blowers that have been approved by California, and they're commercial as well as private. So it's just a matter of choosing and deciding we're going to do it. I want to tell you quickly that I did my homework before coming here and spoke with the Nature Conservancy, the Lower Merion Conservancy. The most important group, actually, is the Clean Air Council of Pennsylvania, which is our top environmental air NGO, and they are hard at work and absolutely support this. I spoke with Stoneley, that was Ethan, he was very strong about it, wish he was here, he's on travel. And Luke Hamilton at Nature Conservancy. All these people can be here, but I'm short-circuiting it because I know you know them all. We are on board, it's an easy solution. It's a very cost-efficient solution. As a matter of fact, I went through all the blowers. There had been talk about cost. There is no cost issue. In one round of blowing, they've made up their whole issue. The blower costs between $500 and max $1,000. It has CFM, cubic feet per minute, equal to or exceeding those of the gas-powered blowers. The recharge time is 45 minutes to put the battery in. You obviously take more than one battery with you when you go on the job. The battery life in the machine goes from 30 minutes to 90 minutes at full speed. And this is one of the things I ask you in my memo, to have a best management practices, which I'd be happy to work with you. But obviously, we don't want people just putting the trigger on full speed and just going for 8 hours, which is what they've been doing behind my house for the last 10 years. So it really is a serious, very emergent crisis we have. And I think actually my last comment is we have an amazing opportunity in this township. When I first met our sustainability manager, she said, "What, Brad, is the issue? What can we stand out on? What can we do to make the township really come forward in the environmental area?" And I said, there is no question, Paula, what we're going to do. This leaf blower thing will put us on the map as a forward-thinking, very concerned and very sophisticated township. And I think that's where we want to be, not following other people. So thank you very much. And I wanted to say hi to Dan Bernheim, who I have met on the phone so many times, and you are a fine fellow, and I'm glad to meet you. I'm sorry, what was that? Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else in the room wish to take advantage of public privilege? Please come forward.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Lunger. I live in Ballackinwood. I'm not with Calm.
I'm going to ask you to pick up the microphone. You can actually
Yeah,
take it
sorry.
out.
I'm a little taller than I think perhaps some people, but anyway, my name is Jeffrey Lunger. I'm from Ballackinwood, and I'm not here with Calm, but I am here on the same issue, and they've made most of the points that I was hoping to make when I came in here, so I won't remake them, and I'll be brief. But I will add to the fact that aside from the air pollution and the obvious noise pollution, I work from home, so it was a nice day today, so the teams were out in force. At the moment they were allowed to start, they all started up their engines and continued on throughout the morning, despite the fact that I had my windows closed. They could still hear it on Zoom, so it was obviously quite loud. But aside from what it's affecting the adult world, how it's doing that, I have 3 children. 2 of them are currently in the school system. One of them has passed through it. And they were relating to me this morning when we were talking about this issue over breakfast that these blowers are so loud that there were classrooms, and this was specifically in Kinwood and in Ballackinwood Middle School, where when the blowers were going, the teacher would just stop talking because it was impossible to hear what they were saying over the sound of all these blowers. So this is an issue not just that affects work from home people, adults, but this is for our children as well. And given that our township has a sustainability effort, I would hate to think that something like this would be considered impossible, because it would suggest that sustainability is only important when it's convenient to the township. I know that Lower Merion, lots of people who like nice lawns, big expanses of green grass, and that's great, they're welcome to it. But this is an obvious, very easy thing to change if we are actually committed to sustainability. And I would urge that we do pass a ban on these types of blowers. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wish to take advantage of public privilege?
I'm Paulette Jelinek. I live in Haverford, on a road that's, like many residents of Lower Merion, has the houses pretty close together. And so we all are very much disturbed when somebody chooses to use a gas-powered lawnmower blower, and especially when they use two at a time, or even, like someone said, three. The noise level is really horrendous. And I also want to say that I echo what has been said, all the good points by the people that are working on this. I'm just here as a regular civilian resident of the township who works at home and likewise is disturbed often by that. And you feel so helpless. You can't do anything. And sometimes I've seen these people blowing a leaf or 3 leaves or whatever at the end, from one place to another. And I've gone out when there's, a few leaves, I'll suggest maybe a rake could be for those few leaves. And they say, no, we can't do that. They don't even have one on their truck. And so I really think for the sustainability and all the points that have been brought up, that we need to do this for our contribution to a little bit of contribution toward reducing climate change and all the long-term, disadvantages. For a short-term, little bit, like someone said, pain of some of these people, restocking with electric lawnmower blowers. And it's also a waste of consumers' money when, some of these people really are not honest about their leaf blowing, where they're, like I said, just blowing it from one place to another at the end. So my main things are the noise, the really terrible noise, and the air quality, pollution, and the smell even that is generated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jerry Jacobs. I live in Marion. I wear headphones outside because it's so noisy. And that's just an indication of my own personal experience with the way in which leaf blowers disrupt, my weekends. It's incessant. I think it's increasing. It's 8 in the morning. They've already started in the last few weeks. I had words with a lawn service person in the middle of December. I tried to explain to him, there are no more leaves. What are you doing? I can certainly understand that when you're trying to get leaves out of a hedge, a leaf blower is probably a good thing. Electric is certainly a viable alternative. But there seems to be an obsession with getting every single leaf, but it's not just leaves, it's blades of grass. When they cut you listen to the lawnmowers, which are loud enough, but then they try to get every single blade of grass off of the driveway or off of the sidewalk. It becomes an obsession. I'm not personally against, the lawn service people. I'd be happy for them to make a living, be happy for my neighbors to have yards that they're happy with. But there are other ways, and I think that the fact that there are so many communities that have already done this, I think is a testament to the fact that we can make progress in this area. It's not just me, it's a common topic among my neighbors. My sense is that the rank ordering of issues is the Philadelphia Eagles, Trump, the price of eggs, and the lawn blowers is right up there in terms of the things that really freak people out. My wife thinks that I'm putting these on so that I don't have to listen to her, but it's really not about that. It's really about the lawn blowers, and I really was delighted to hear that there's actually something that can be done. We've called the township, we've asked them for help. We've been told that 7:30 is too early in the morning. But other than that, there's nothing they can do. And so we were delighted to hear that there's an initiative, that the board has been working on this, and we really hope that action is taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Yeah, come forward.
Thank you. I'm Dr. David Pohl. I'm a clinical professor of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania, and I live in Bryn Mawr. I'm here, I agree with all the environmental issues here, but I'm speaking tonight to talk about the public health aspect of this because I think it is critical in our community. My wife and I moved our family out of Philadelphia in 1990 when we had 2 infants, and we woke up in the morning and smelled the refineries in the morning. So we moved out here for clean air, and I regret to say that now, every morning I wake up and I smell the same smell because of these leaf blowers. And I've also been, the beneficiary of the fact that I'm no longer able to do telemedicine visits from home because of the noise that these blowers are creating. But my biggest concern, however, are the tremendous negative health effects that these have. So, and these come about both from the noise that cause increased stress and then promote high blood pressure and heart attacks and stroke and lung disease, as well as the local toxins that are emitted, which in particulate matter gets embedded deep within the lungs and causes lung disease or aggravates lung disease in those people that have it. As well as the carcinogenic aspects of this, so the benzene that's emitted causing leukemia and lymphoma. So this is really a big deal. This is a major health risk that we are all exposing our community to by allowing these gas-powered leaf blowers to continue to exist. These are really bad. We got rid of them in cars 50 years ago. I grew up in New York City. I remember the smog that was generated. But you can't get a scooter now, but you can get a leaf blower that has a 2-stroke motor. So I really see that there's nothing good about them. And I just wanted to share with you that throughout my career, which is now 40 years and counting, I've always abided by my oath to first do no harm. And I would hope that you would join me in taking an oath to first do no harm to our community and help ban these leaf blowers. It's a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoever's next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. Thank you to all the residents for coming out. My name is Julia Newman. I'm a resident of Merion Station, and I have 2 young kids. And the only thing that I would add is, we moved to our neighborhood because of its quiet, natural beauty. It was, one of the main reasons that we chose the neighborhood that we did. And it's just really difficult to, not have a moment in the day where we can actually enjoy that without the noise. But I also just wanted to add that I have a son with asthma. We are militant about the allergens in our home, vacuuming, keeping out animals. We are just really careful, and it's very difficult to then not have any control over the environment outside. And so, very concerned about the long-term health and well-being of my kids and all of the other kids, in the neighborhood and in the township. And I just thank everybody for being here tonight and thank all of you for your consideration.
Hi, I'm Pennsylvania, you know me. I've been for you many times. You know what I'm about to say. You've already heard it from everybody else. So what's taking you guys and women so long? So you've heard all the arguments. What I would just like to say is, please, when you're putting this ordinance into effect, consider some other possibilities. One, you might consider a phased-in approach. Maybe that would be easier for you. The ordinance should include winter, spring, and summer gas-powered leaf blower should be banned throughout the township. It's not a heavy leaf season, spring, summer, and winter, but yet it continues 12 months of the year. We would also like to have, in the fall, the leaves be mowed back into the soil to replenish the soil and to use a bag mower instead. And that you would also ban leaf blowing on paved surfaces, because there's absolutely no reason to blow a leaf on a paved surface. Other things can pick it up easier. I think people just enjoy moving one leaf over and over. We've heard people say that. Please make Lower Merion Township green and healthy again. And then you can stop hearing all these arguments from all of us.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to take advantage of public privilege? Do not be shy.
I was kind of waiting until the leaf thing blew over.
That was a good one.
You like that? So I wrote an email to the Recreation of Lower Merion, and I think I'm just going to read the email because you're not the Recreation of Lower Merion. And
Oh, sorry, sir, if you could introduce yourself, just your name.
oh,
and
yeah,
where in
sorry
touch
about
you live,
that. I'm Adam Washington. I'm a resident of Ardmore. I'm a homeowner. I'm a business owner as well, all in Ardmore. I spent 12 years raising my son in this town. I'm the owner of Washington Boxing Academy of Ardmore, located directly across the street from the Tot Lot on Spring Avenue. Over the years, I've enjoyed spending time at that park, encouraging children to play and get outside with no issues from any local authorities. However, following the recent renovations of the Tot Lot, I've noticed that the age range of the children allowed to use the park has changed. Historically, the park was designed for children 2 to 11, but the recent changes seem to have altered this, and the public was not adequately informed as far as I'm concerned. With both the Vernon Young Memorial Playground and South Ardmore Park Playground currently under reconstruction, children ages 6 and up have no other options for outdoor play right now. On 3/18/25, my family and I visited the Tot Lot, which is less than 100 feet from my home. My wife was pushing our daughter on the swing while my 14-year-old son and I were tossing a football nearby away from the smaller children. Unfortunately, the police were called and an officer came to gather my information due to this activity. The police told me that the call was made because of the football play. After the police left, I examined the signage and found nothing prohibiting ball play in the park. Seeking clarification about the incident, I called the police station and spoke to the officer who came to the park. The officer stated that the infraction was because children over the age of 5 were in the park, not because of the ball play, even though a neighbor who called the police complained of, quote, grown men playing football in the Tot Lot. My wife and I were confused by this conflicting information and decided to call the township for further clarification. It didn't make sense that our beloved town of Ardmore would expect us to split our family in order to have part time for our 2-year-old child, especially when the time together as a family these days are so rare. I spoke to someone from the Park and Recreation who told me that very clearly that the age limit is 2 to 5 on the age referred specifically to the playground equipment, not physical presence in the park. While this age restriction makes sense, there is apparently a lack of understanding regarding the rule. According to the interpretation of the rule, my family and I were in According to the interpretation of the rule, my family and I were in absolutely no violation of the new rules of the Tot Lot. But it seems the police force need to be educated on this as well and understand that the Tot Lot is supposed to be used. We will allow them This will allow them to educate the members of the community who think they are witnessing violations for things like playing ball in the park. As a long-term resident and business owner and taxpayer in Ardmore, I'm requesting that the rules of the signage of the tot lot be revised and clarified in a way that families are allowed to go play together and there is no age violation or misunderstanding to the age violation. The signage is very misinforming and has been changed since the tot lot changed. And we haven't, I didn't see anything where anyone had any say in what the new rules were going to be. I'm cool with you changing the tot lot, or not you, but the community changing, I'm okay with that. But like, if the rules are going to change and the people that are using the facilities are not educated on the rules being changed, and then we're being penalized or questioned by the police, that becomes a problem to me. And I don't push and shove, I'm a super nice guy, but $6,000 a year in tax money is a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to take advantage? Excuse me, public privilege. Please.
Crystal Blunt. I live in Ardmore. You guys know who I am. I want to piggyback on what he just said. You have all these projects that are going on in our community. So where was your thought process for what you were going to do for kids? Where are they going to go? Where are they supposed to play? And how come no one contacted that community to get their input before you put all these projects together to try to figure out what are these kids going to do all summer long? When you're closing up every walkable space that they have, what are they supposed to do? And what was your thought process? I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Tossing a football in a playground, where do you want them to toss footballs? In the street? Because that's not safe. So where are they supposed to go? You have the Ardmore playground down. Matter of fact, there's not going to be even a pool for them. So I'm waiting for that to come up on the agenda, because I have some questions for you concerning that. Parts of the South Ardmore Park aren't available. Then you have people who rent the space for baseball games. So where are these kids supposed to go? And what was your thought process? They're taxpayer kids out here. We've lived out here generation, our whole lives. And now you want to make all these changes to a playground, which is fine. They need those changes. But what was the thought process of where you're going to do? Where are they supposed to go? Where are they supposed to play? In a safe, walkable area. So I'm waiting for some answers of what your thought process was, because this should not have happened.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Megan McCarthy-May. I'm Adam's neighbor and his whole family's neighbor, and I live directly across the street from the tot lot. And my daughter and her two little friends had a very similar experience. As was stated, the tot lot, when we moved in years ago, was for 2 to 11-year-olds. All the kids in the neighborhood played. They were able to meet friends. They were able to run around outside, get vitamin D, get sunshine, get exercise. It was really a great place. Sometimes the middle schoolers would act like middle schoolers, and we would redirect them kindly, like, hey, you need to use proper language. Hey, you need to use the equipment correctly. And they listened. They were great. They're great kids in that neighborhood. The tot lot was torn down. We weren't told anything about it, not an email, not a letter, no one canvassing. We didn't know why it was torn down. The scuttlebutt was it was to make it more accessible to children with disabilities, which we thought was great. We have a number of children with disabilities in our neighborhood. When the tot lot was rebuilt, we didn't notice the very small sign saying it was from 2 to 5. One of the days right after it was rebuilt, I came home from work and I saw my daughter, who is 10, her two friends who are also 9 and 10, peeking over the fence. And when I came back, they said, Mommy, Mrs. May. The police were called on us and kicked us out of the park. The police came to my 10-year-old daughter and her two little friends and kicked them out of the park. Someone from Parks and Rec was across the street, and so I went to speak to him. And he pointed out the sign, and I said, this is the first time I've seen this. And he said, well, it is called the Tot Lot. I'm like, that's great, but for years, it said from 2 to 11. And he said, well, your kids can use Vernon Young or South Ardmore. I have a neighbor that's a 7-year-old across the street. My son is 9. I'm gonna let him walk from Spring and Chestnut to South Ardmore Park all by himself? And because of the close proximity of the neighborhood, because all of us are around there, we keep an eye on everyone's kids. The middle school kids, who have to sometimes be redirected, keep an eye on the little ones. When my son was in 2nd grade and they were playing football, they would include the little guys and teach them how to do it. And now, we apparently can't play football there, and 9-year-old girls can't be hanging out with one another. One thing that I do want, so here's my ask, but I do want to point something out. I've only seen the cops called twice. I live literally across the street. Once to Adam, and once to these 2 little girls. And I have to say, take a wild guess what the thing that is in common with Adam and these 2 little girls. Exactly. That is deplorable. So my ask is to change the signs so it makes it crystal clear that is not systemic oppression happening in our park, that all people are allowed to step foot in the park. And then also my next ask is to put equipment back in the park that the older children can use. We have one of the little girls who was taken out of the park, who was kicked out of the park, is autistic and likes to swing because it's self-regulating. The guy from Parks and Rec said, oh, well, she was swinging a little too hard on that swing. I thought this park was supposed to be accessible for children with disabilities. So let's kick out children of color who have disabilities. So as long as you're of a certain age, of a certain color, and a certain ability, you're allowed to play in the park. And I know that's not the case, but that is the image that's the image that it's portraying to everyone. Okay? So my ask, fix the park, get our feedback for Vernon Young, get our feedback for South Ardmore, and give a place to our children that can play that is open to all children. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to take advantage of public privilege? Okay, seeing no one in the room, last chance? No, okay. Do we have anyone online?
I do. I have 4 people with their hands raised. I'm going to promote Adrian Seltzer.
Okay.
And she will be there momentarily.
I'm clicking buttons. Here I am. Hi, Adrian Seltzer, Wynwood. A lot of what I have to say has been said. Yes, I did watch the workshop and heard about the potential trial ban of the gas-powered leaf blowers, starting with Parks and Rec. But Parks and Rec, for all that they do not have to blow every single leaf off of South Ardmore Park. Do not have to mow the lawn or the grass there to within an inch of its life. By mowing less and not gathering up all the leaves, having some of them around the trees as mulch, you could do a lot of good for the environment. And we have an electric leaf blower, and it's still pretty loud. It's not as loud as the gas powered, but they're still pretty loud, so I don't want people to have expectations that they're quiet. You were also talking about solar panels that you'll be putting on Ludington and another library or so, and mentioned something about there's no way to increase the electrical service to the township building. And I was wondering, as I drove past, it seems like the roofs are flat on the township building. Why can't you put solar panels there? And then the last thing is, we've been talking about improvements to Ardmore Avenue Community Center for several years. You got money from COVID to be able to do this. but your planning did nothing to find an option, and now you're scaring for all the kids that use the park, the swimming pool at Vernon Young. And I think it's kind of sad. I wrote this. I think the fact that the township did not recognize the hardship that this would place on the community and did not come up with an alternate plan in the year's work up to this renovation shows how there isn't the same value placed on the Ardmore community as there are on other parts of the township. The shack was built as a temporary structure in the 1950s. In the ensuing years, the township has financed many other projects like Ludington Library and others without township money, but forgot about the shack. If COVID didn't happen, the new Ardmore Avenue Community Center would still be a dream. So I want you to try and think hard about what I'm saying and do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody, who is next?
I have Frederick LePate, and I'm trying to promote him to a panelist. Okay, here he comes. Mr. LePape, would you please turn on your camera, and then you can begin speaking. I can see that he's there. Let's try someone else. Emily Stolzenberg, I'm going to promote her to a panelist. Okay, here she comes.
Hi, my name is Emily Stolzenberg, and I live in the Marion Park neighborhood. And I wanted to speak in favor of the township considering constructing a year-round township pool. So to the best of my knowledge, the high school pool is the only year-round pool within the township that's open to the public, but its hours are very limited. And so it's difficult for many people to use it, especially people who have small children. So my husband and I have 4 children, and what I'm hoping is that he is able to take advantage of the early morning hours, but then, one of us needs to be at home with the kids. And then there are weekend hours, but they are very constrained. It's 4 hours currently Saturday afternoon and 3 on Sunday. And so again, it's really difficult, especially with small children, to find time to go swim. And also with children's schedules to even get the kids in the pool. So I've met swimmers at the pool who tell me that they either currently or in the past have joined the YMCAs, for example, in Havertown or in Roxborough, because their schedules don't align enough with the high school pool's hours. And so I just wanted to say that I think constructing a year-round township pool with much more expanded hours would fill a real need in the community, and it would be a great benefit to the community. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Isabel Melvin now.
Okay.
Miss Melvin, if you would please turn it, oh, there we go.
Hi, good evening, Chairman Sinai, my Commissioner Sean Whalen, all Board of Commissioners of Lower Merion Township, the Lower Merion Township staff, Secretary Jody Kelly, our Sustainability Manager, Paloma Vila. Thank you all for the time and commitment you have made to make Lower Merion the best place to live. Please rank your #1 priority the banning of gas-powered leaf blowers in Lower Merion Township for 2025. Almost 4 years ago, on July 21st, 2021, as Stu said, neighbors showed up and spoke out in support of the CALM petition, Climate Action Lower Merion, to ban gas-powered leaf blowers. It was presented to, some of you were there and were knowledgeable on the subject. Chairman Sinai and Commissioner Gilda Kramer. And 2 days prior, as was stated earlier, our township had hired their first sustainability manager ever, Paloma Vila. There was such promise in the room. Now we know so much more. So many cities and townships in PA and across the country are banning these intrusive assault machines. So please, let's zip this up. We've waited a long time. Let's be the leaders we should be. Please rank your #1 priority the banning of gas-powered leaf blowers in Lower Merion Township for 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have Shauna Usher.
Okay.
Ms. Usher, please turn on your camera and then you can begin to speak. All right. Okay, Benjamin Tatterson has his hand raised, so I'll promote him to a panelist.
Township Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I come here in support of the Lower Merion gas-powered leaf blower plan. My points, I live in Ardmore. It's just so unpleasant as people, as the contractors go from lawn to lawn to lawn to lawn. And it really shouldn't be called a leaf blower because it's really not used for leaves. It's used for pushing grass into bushes, 90% of the activity. It constantly violates our noise ordinances. And really, leaf blowers came out in the late 80s, and we survived without them before they came out. And it's similar, the sound, it's similar to the sound of dirt bikes. And those are also not legal in the township. And it pollutes the air, and we have to close the windows because of the smog and the noise. And for those who suggest that this will hurt business, I would argue it won't. I would argue that once this ban is passed this year, in the next 2 months, that the contractors can just curtail that part of the service and continue charging, and they can make more money. And so I view this, if done correctly, it can be a pro-business move. With that, I cede the floor. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you for taking up this issue. Good night.
Thank you. Jody, I see that we
Ms.
have some.
Usher's on.
Okay.
Yep. Ms. Usher, you can begin your comments.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I was having some technical difficulties. My name is Shauna Usher. I live in Penn Valley. I am currently out of town, but I wanted to attend via Zoom because that's how important I think this is. I'm speaking on behalf of banning the leaf blowers. So I've lived in Penn Valley for 25 years with my family, and I have been doing this leaf blowing dance with the township for between 15 and 18 years. Dan Bernheim in particular, I've reached out to at least a half dozen times. I can't even recount all the venues and people and police officers and excuses that I have heard over this very long period of time. So to say that I've been patient has been an understatement. I can't imagine why this has gone ignored for so many years. You know, I know, we all know that these are toxic monsters. And this seems to be an industry that we've created and continue to enable. I don't know if we feel guilty or if we feel embarrassed by our privilege, or if the township is scared of the landscape companies or being sued by rich people. I don't get it, but I dearly hope to finally see some change. My God, Lower Merion Township is an embarrassment. People are gobsmacked that we continue to allow this. They cannot believe it. They said Lower Merion Township, they're supposed to be really on the ball. Well, not on this issue. Please, please, please put a ban on these monsters. It is much overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody, do you have anyone else online?
No one else has their hand raised.
Okay. So this is the point where we actually respond to what people said. I'm going to take the opportunity to go first before opening up to my colleagues. And let me first...
Someone just raised their hand. A gentleman I tried to put in earlier who didn't speak.
Okay. Like I'm going to have to say that all over again in a few
Sorry.
minutes, but go ahead, Jody.
Okay, and this is it. If anybody else wants to speak, please raise your hand now. Okay, here he comes.
I would like to speak, please.
Okay. Mr. LePape, please turn on your camera and then you can begin your comments. Mr. LePape, we'll need you to turn your camera on now. He's on the screen. I'm not sure what's going on. Give it one more try. Mr. LePape,
One more
please turn
time.
your camera on. Never had this situation. Okay. Maybe he changed his mind?
Okay. So I'm sorry, we only take public comment from over here. So if someone in the room did not have a chance to make public comment and they want to add themselves, we will allow it, so come on up. Please.
Thank you. Deborah Roseanne Ardmore. I'm understanding about leaf blowers. I'm actually against racism in our township. We had Adam Washington, who's been here for an extended period of time with a business, get up here and speak. We had a mother get up and here and speak whose children were approached by police without an adult present. And we're spinning about leaves and leaf blowers? Shame on Lower Merion Township. Shame, shame. I'm Deborah Roseanne from Ardmore. I'm against leaf blowers. I am really against racism.
Okay, thank you. Is that the, oh, sorry.
Miriam Phillips Ardmore, I'm sorry, I just had to get up to circle back to the issue with the tot lot. Obviously, rules are one thing, intent is another. And I don't think the intent is matching up with the rules of this tot lot, especially given the surrounding conditions where the two playgrounds on either side of it are unavailable, right, for regular use. So I understand from an email from my commissioner that our playground at Vernon Young may be back available towards the end of this month. But construction will still be ongoing on that property for the next year. So I guess what I'm asking you is you have the authority to basically override the rules right now and allow the use of that tiny little park to be available for more than just what the rules currently say on the fence outside. Okay, so thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Okay, so there we're going to now close public privilege. I'm going to start by responding to some of it, but first, thank you to everyone who came in person tonight, everyone who came virtually tonight. It is one of the great features of government is that we have these public process and people can engage. And it's good to hear from everyone. And in respect to the second to last person who spoke, we can be, up in arms about multiple things at the same time in the township, and I think that's okay. We have multiple issues. Let me start by addressing the leaf blowers, and this is going to take some time. This has been a personal issue of mine for some time, as part of it was recognized tonight. Years and years ago, I remember meeting with landscapers and researching what other communities had done then in terms of dealing with gas-powered leaf blowers. And just to give you a little sense of where I'm coming from this, I have all electric lawn equipment, not just leaf blowers, lawnmower, string trimmer, the whole thing is all part of the electric ecosystem. I've had it for a long time. I'm an early adopter on it. In my personal preference, being commissioner from Merion, is to move away from gas-powered leaf blowers, and honestly, from gas-powered lawn equipment, period. But we're talking about leaf blowers and a priority thing. So let me just also give you a little sense of what's going on with the priority setting process that we did just a couple of weeks ago. We do not have a leaf blower ordinance in front of us to consider. What we do in the priority setting process is try and organize our efforts so we're efficient over the course of the year by the commissioners coming together and saying, well, where should we focus our energies on developing things to consider later, to develop ordinances? Because it takes time to consider ordinances. It takes time to, not to consider them, but to put them together and put them together in the way that when they show up in a board meeting, we can pass them. We don't just send them back to be worked on again. And when they get passed, they work. And so we spend a lot of time on the back end trying to get our legislation good and right, and they're going to work the first time before we bring it forward. And that's what the priority setting exercise is to do, is to say we only have limited things that we can work on, or the most important things to work on. So, that in part is why, when people are like, why have we not done this yet? Well, when I looked back at the previous priority setting, it was proposed that a priority in 2022, working on an ordinance to ban gas-powered leaf blowers, but not in 2023 and not in 2024. And it's not that the township wasn't doing anything, it's that we have a long list of sustainability priorities to work on, and we were working on other sustainability priorities, some of which you heard about in comments tonight, that are getting passed and getting done because we have to pick and choose what we're working on. And then it's a question of why weren't we working on gas-powered leaf blowers in 2023 or 2024? And the answer is in 2022, of the 14 commissioners, only 6 put any priority on it. And those that did not, 4 of them did not put very much priority on it. And so it wasn't a priority of that board at that time. It was a priority of mine at that time, but I'm only one of 14 people here. So that's what determines what gets worked on. Having said that, the township has been working on it anyway, because we do that. when we think about what it takes to get from a good idea to a good ordinance, which is a very different thing, it takes a few things, and questions come up, right? So questions are, can this be done on large residential institutional properties? And if not, do you carve them out? And if so, where do you draw the line? Can it be operationalized by landscaping companies who don't just do one property, but they go from property to property? They need like an all-day a way of having continuous runtime. Do they need to have two sets of equipment, electric and gas? Would landscapers just circumvent the whole ordinance by recharging their batteries using a generator? Right, a two-stroke generator, which would be sort of silly, right? Or just leaving their trucks running with an inverter to recharge the batteries. How do we enforce it, right? All of these things are things that need to be grappled with. So what do you do in that situation? The first is that you do something that Stu Friedman referred to. It's like other municipalities have done this already, right? So you go and you look at them and you say, well, what have they done? What has worked for them? What has not worked? What are the best practices that we can learn, right? And use that to help you figure out what to adopt. How do they address the questions that I just raised? The other thing that you could do is you can get buy-in from landscapers, institutions, property owners, residents, that it's viable by first doing it yourself as a township and showing if we can do it as a township, then we can convey to other people it can be done. And also, here's what we have learned and what's doing it, okay? So what has the township been doing on this? The staff has been meeting with staff in peer municipalities who have enacted leaf blower bans to gather insight and inform what we should do here in Lower Merion. We're doing some education. This summer, the township will be hosting a workshop on lawn and garden equipment electrification for landscaping professionals. This is something that was funded by this board in the 2025 budget to help them understand the negative impacts related to internal combustion lawn equipment and give them hands-on demonstrations of electric alternatives. In our Parks and Recreation Department, at both pools, the summer help is using all electric mowing and landscape tools. The maintenance crews use electric hedge trimmers for routine work, and they don't buy gas. The maintenance crews use electric chainsaws for routine work. The only gas chainsaws are for the big logs. In 2023, we purchased a battery-powered zero-turn riding lawnmower to pilot, purchased a battery walk-behind to expand it in 2024, and purchased a second ride-on commercial mower, electric, with the goal of being one of the township landscape crews will be all electric equipment, which would be a third of the township's landscaping efforts, to show that you can actually do it commercially at commercial scale in doing that this year. We're running 3 battery backpack leaf blowers this summer for testing for durability and battery life, and show that, again, you can do these things at commercial scale. So all of these things are things that the township are doing to demonstrate that it can be done and say that we are piloting it. So this board will decide on what it thinks of its priorities, you don't want to say any more about that. Other than that, this is something that the township is spending time on. So when it becomes something that comes in front of this board, we are fully prepared to move ahead and get it done, right? And that takes investment on the back end that's not very visible, but it's investment that has been important to this township. Certainly commercially, we appear to be on the leading edge of what you can do with this electric equipment. So thank you for your encouragement for us to continue doing that. I can tell you I have a half acre of lawn. If anyone is watching this on TV, I do it with all electric equipment, and it is no problem, and it is significantly better than back when I had gas, and I've had the technology for 5 years. It is there. Okay, the second thing I want to address is just quickly to respond to Ms. Blunt and Ms. Seltzer a little bit, and leave the rest for my colleagues. Ms. Blunt asked where the kids are supposed to play. So I'm looking at what we have from our Parks and Rec director, which is that we are doing work on the playgrounds. The work is to improve the playgrounds, is to make them better. And to improve the playgrounds, you have to, shut down parts of them to do it. The work is non-overlapping at Vernon Young and South Ardmore Park. So South Ardmore Park, so if I'm going to have this, you're going to get the sequence right. Which one is going first? So Vernon Young is reopening, and South Ardmore Park is closing.
South Ardmore Park is opening.
South Ardmore Park is reopening
Yeah.
at the end of the month, and Vernon Young closes in April, right? So those should, one of those should be operational at every point in time. The second thing, and Ms. Seltzer, you raised this, which is Ardmore Avenue Community Center, in order to be rebuilt, has to close. And we talked about this at an earlier meeting, and I'll just repeat it here. It is really important that we redo Ardmore Avenue Community Center. It is a really big project for this township. It is $20 to $24 million investment in that facility. It is the largest investment in the township facility in the history of this township. And it, in part, is funded with federal money that if we do not get the building done by the end of next year, that money disappears and the building does not get done, right? So if we want a new community center in Ardmore, as nice as the community center that we are building, we have to shut down over the summer. We have no choice. No one wants to do it. Everyone thinks it's horrible. Personally, I think having a new Ardmore Avenue Community Center is worth having to shut down over the summer, but I do not want to minimize the disruption that shutting it down over the summer causes. Like, I recognize that. But, Ms. Seltzer says, we are not, to get this quote right, not placing the same value on the Ardmore community. And I need to say, I cannot think that this is further from the truth, given what this board is investing in Ardmore, in the efforts we have gone to in order to make really top-notch facilities in here. Like there's a saying, put your money where your mouth is, and I believe that we have done that. Okay, so those are my comments for this evening. Do my colleagues wish to, Commissioner Stevenson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you, those of you who came out. I want to address a couple of things. The first is to address the comments that were made by Mr. Washington. And ma'am, I apologize, the neighbor, I don't remember your name. Ms. May. Thank you for coming out. First of all, I would like to say that I apologize as your commissioner, that if, whether it's miscommunication, bad signage, or bad optics with intentions, I don't want any children or anyone else to feel that they're targeted or that that something was done with the intent to keep people out of something. I understand while I have not been very versed on this until this afternoon, and I need more time to understand about the history, about the why this was taking place. What I can commit to you is that I will work with the township, the police, and the Park and Rec to ensure that we address those concerns that were brought forth. Number one, looking at what is it, the purpose of why that was done. Number two, what can we do to make sure that there's an understanding about if that is something that is necessary that we have to do a tot park. And I know how tot parks are, and I can't speak to this. I know in certain situations that it was restricted because older kids and adults were coming in and taking away that opportunity for them. So we have to figure out how do we coexist, but not at the expense of children feeling that they are scared to be in that piece. And I commit to you that I will work with the township to do that. So thank you for bringing that up. Ms. Crystal, thank you for bringing forth the conversation about what are we doing about kids, what are we doing those other things. I think that that is something that Artwood and Ardmore Progressive have brought to our attention this week with Commissioner Kramer, and I will say that we've been talking this week with members of the township to put out stuff. We need to increase that communication. So all I can say to you is that I'm committed to that work. When I say I mean we, because I'm working with other people committed to increase that communication, because I think it's important. There are some things that folks are working on. Commissioner Whalen, who chairs the Park and Rec, I know have been working on things that we can't discuss yet, but there are things that we have done and we are doing to bring those things forth. So I just wanted to acknowledge that particular piece. The final thing I'll say to my Greenpeace people, that I will say that I was one of those people who did not make this a priority. And I'm a walking contradiction, because in the last 6 months I bought a electric powered lawnmower and electric powered snowblower. Snowblower, not in love with. Lawnmower, I love. But I am on board, and so yes, do not send me emails. I am voting for it, so thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Vice President Kramer.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to try to not repeat anything that Commissioner Stevenson has said. So many things when it comes to this parks question that I want to address. The first is, yes, we need to do better in terms of communication of the projects. I know there's been a lot of frustration, totally valid. Are you saying you can't hear me? Okay. A lot of frustration about the insufficient information coming out about the projects, totally valid, and we can do better, right? And we will do better, and hopefully we'll be getting good information out to you and regular information out to you as we go forward. I do want to make everybody aware that the renovations at South Ardmore Park should be done by the end of this month. The turtle will go back in, and all will be right with the world as far as South Ardmore Park is concerned. With regard to the Ardmore Avenue Community Center, I do want to make people aware, and I'll say it a million more times because I want everybody to know about the plans that are going on. When Ardmore Avenue Community Center is closed down for the renovations, the programming is going to go to the Palm. When the Palm is closed for its renovations, the programming is going to go to Ardmore Avenue Community Center. So the programming isn't going to go away. We're just going to have to take turns while we're doing these renovations. When it comes to the pool at Ardmore Avenue Community Center, yes, of course, we need to have a pool that's walkable for the folks that live in Ardmore this summer. I feel very strongly about it. It's very frustrating that, as President Sinai said, this is the hand we're dealt in terms of the funding and when it goes away. But we are doing everything we can to see if we can get a walkable pool option for the people who live in Lower Merion, who would normally walk to the pool in Ardmore. Somebody recently said to me, that sounds like a red herring. I don't think you're really going to do it. It's not a red herring. I don't know if it's going to, I can't promise that it's going to happen, but it is not a red herring. We are honestly working on it because I feel very strongly that it's important for the community. So stay tuned in terms of updates. With regard to the parks regulations, of course, everybody should be able to play at the park. Dads should be able to play with their kids in the playground. 9-year-olds should be able to go on equipment that's for 5-year-olds without being harangued, right? We all agree that should happen. Common sense should prevail when it comes to parks, right? So we'll look at what we need to look at and review what we need to review in terms of regulations and signage and all that kind of stuff so that our parks work for everybody. With regard to the police involvement, I'm gonna turn briefly over to the superintendent to answer some questions about the specifics of calls. But as chair of the police committee, I just want to say that we're really committed to community policing and to having great relations between the police department and the community. It's to everybody's benefit that be the case. And I hope that people are aware of how hard we've been working on this over the last few years. Commissioner Stevenson and myself and the entirety of the police committee and the police department. and the FOP, we've all been working and the Police Minority Relations Committee have all been working hand in hand to improve those relationships, and we have made significant progress, and there will always be more work to do. So we do want to work with the community on these types of issues. We don't want anybody to feel like they're being targeted because of anything about themselves with regard to policing. And I don't know the specifics of the calls, but I will say the police department isn't driving around looking at playgrounds looking to harass kids, right? Like I'm sure you were responding to calls that were made by residents, which brings me to a different issue that I'll come back to. Why are people calling the police on users of the parks? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the callers. I don't know their intent. I don't want to jump to conclusions. Does it point to the potential of some deeper questions that we want to be asking ourselves as a community? Yeah, maybe, right? Mr. Washington, who is lovely and of course had to leave because he has a little one, had alluded in some communications that we'd had earlier today, that it seems like Ardmore is changing, not for the better necessarily. There's gentrification. Is there loss of community? Is there loss of trust? Is there loss of respect, right? These are important, huge questions that we need to be asking, we need to be grappling with together. I don't have answers. I don't think any one of us does, right? But we need to be talking about these things together. You're against racism, like me too, like obviously everybody here I would hope would say the same thing. So let's get together and talk about the issues that people are clearly feeling, right? And that we need to be addressing. I know that it's going to take all hands on deck in order to address some of those things. Our faith community, the Police Minority Relations Committee, the police department, commissioners that are involved, our civics. So let's have those conversations. I'd love to. I know that Commissioner Stevenson is committed as well. So let's get to it. And we're not going to do it right now, but I do want to talk with everybody involved so that we can make things better. Yes, you can call the police for any concern you ever have, right? I would never want to tell anybody, don't call the police if you have a concern and feel like somebody's in danger. But as a resident, not as somebody involved with the police, but as a resident, like, don't call the police about a kid playing on the play. Like, go talk to the kid or their mom, or just mind your own business, or something else like that. We don't need to be calling the police on our neighbors. We need to be talking with our neighbors, right? So I hope that we will continue to work on that together. But much ado, without further ado, I just want to turn it over to Superintendent Block to answer the questions about the actual calls.
Good evening. Thank you, Commissioner Kramer. Just with respect to the incidents at the park, we were reactive because we received 911 calls to respond there, as we do with any type of investigation. The officers arrived, and essentially in these situations, they just advised the people there that there had been a complaint. We took the information, we filed a report, and then we follow up with the Parks and Recreation Department. It's not our intent to come in and start issuing citations for township ordinances. It's a township park, and again, we want to bring everybody together. That's what the park's about. It's about a sense of community, bringing families together and things of that nature. So, and I've said this before since I've been here, if residents have a problem, my door is open, my phones are on, please give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. We want to break these barriers down. And racism has no place to be. I don't tolerate it. It's not tolerated within the police department. Again, when we receive the call, we don't know who's making the call, and we don't know who is there when we arrive. We're just there to do an impartial investigation with respect to the information that was received at the time. And we're transparent. Everything's on the body cameras, and it's reviewed in these situations. And it was on the Sunday incident, it was a very good exchange between our officers and Mr. Washington and his family and some of the other people that were in the park.
Thank you, Superintendent. I just want to say I'm looking forward to, I appreciate the work of the police department and the officers that were involved in these calls. And I look forward to talking with you more about these issues. And that's it for me. Thank you,
Okay,
President Sinai.
Thank you, Vice President Kramer. Commissioner Gilderfamily.
May I ask Superintendent Block a question? I did make some inquiries about this incident as well, and do you know what the race of the complainant was?
I believe it was an African-American gentleman, but I can't release any more information on that had made the call.
Okay. All right, that was my
But race, in my opinion, has nothing to do with it. The complainant made the call, we're going to go and respond, and investigate it and properly report on it.
That was my understanding as well. I just wanted to confirm it. I guess at that point I'd like to make some comments. That I'm very sorry that Mr. Washington and Ms. May's children had these incidents. A lot of this has to do with neighbors not being good neighbors to one another. And I think that is a bigger issue. And I see this throughout the township. We have many instances of neighbors not being good neighbors to one another. And I would just urge everybody to be kind and patient and thoughtful and tolerant of one another's neighbors. In terms of other issues, I wanted to thank Ms. Stolzenberg for her comments about the need for indoor pools. This is a subject that many residents have spoken to me about, and about the limited hours that we have available, and I do hope that we can at least explore this issue and perhaps come up with some potential solutions for the community. And finally, I want to thank everybody for their comments about the gas-powered leaf blowers. I have felt for years that one of the most impactful things that we can do to improve our quality of life in the community and also to mitigate the climate change aspects of greenhouse gas emissions is to regulate the use of these gas-powered leaf blowers that are bad for our health and that are unpleasant to be around and incredibly polluting. And I do hope that we will prioritize passing an appropriate ordinance this year.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Kramer. Commissioner Bernhardt.
Yeah, ever so briefly, and again, appreciation for everybody who takes the time to come forth, at the risk of being redundant of what President Sinai said. That's the beauty of this process. And then maybe stepping outside of the lane, given all that's going on in the world, that's what makes, Lower Merion, and maybe people ought to learn from the bottom rung of the political totem pole how to handle things at the top. That being said, and also so that it doesn't just merely come off as academic from our academician as to what the thought process is for for the blowers. Somebody referenced Penn Environment. I did pull their ordinance, one of many, and they're really very interesting, and they bring up topics of seasonal leaf blowers, what notice provisions are there, previously purchased equipment, various things such as what you do for the municipalities' owned equipment, enforcement, and the list goes on and on. So there are many different ways in which different municipalities have handled this, of trying to phase things in, be it from different size lots, from different commercial entities, and there are a lot of aspects to this. The commitment's been made from this board to try to address the issue, and as noted, it's got a lot of moving parts to it in order for us to try to go ahead and do this. So we certainly do hear all of you when you come forth. We hear all of you when you send all of us the emails, and for those that may have shared, I get the same email 20 times. I may send the same response 20 times, but I'm reading each of them. And I know that my colleagues do something of the same. The fact that I don't address some of these other issues that were brought out there, please don't believe that also hasn't resonated with us. And I recognize that there have been some comments here about sometimes neighbors not being neighborly. Fortunately, I've also witnessed neighbors being neighborly, taking my grandkids to a park and watching some mother organize a bunch of kids so they didn't all beat one another up. That was appreciated. That was very neighborly. And so there are aspects of Lower Merion that are always Lower Merion-esque. And I think that we will strive to, make those efforts. And I know that our police force does that on a regular basis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bernheim. Commissioner Grimes.
Thank you, President Sinai. First off, I want to thank Vice President Kramer for her comments. I'm also on the Police Committee, but I think she summarized my opinion on that very well and in a very empathetic way, so I appreciate that. I want to talk about the leaf blower issue for a change tonight. In concept, I am in favor of a ban restriction on leaf blowers. My hesitancy, which for those who, some people have exchanged information with me on this and some haven't, so I'll put it out there. I represent a ward on the western part of the township with the larger lots, and one or two of the people talked about this. The dilemma for the larger lots, it has to do with whether electric blowers are really practical in larger lots. How often do batteries get changed? As President Sinai said, how are they recharged? How are the batteries, which I understand have some hazardous materials, how are they disposed of? Or that the disposal creates environmental issues in and of itself. And I'm not mentioning these issues to defeat discussion of a ban. I think there are challenges that we have to address because residents with larger properties are entitled, just like those with smaller properties where it's easier to use electric blowers, they deserve to have their lawns kept in the way that they would like as well. So I actually started a conversation with staff. I looked today, anticipated it's come up back in November 2023. And I asked, is there equipment that you can point to, brand, model, other things that would work with batteries that will work on larger properties? And I'm going to politely say that is an ongoing question. And for those here who want to work with us on a restriction or a ban, I would invite you, if you have this kind of information, to present it to our sustainability director, or you could email me with it, because that will be very helpful when this board starts this discussion to know if this technology is there that can efficiently handle larger properties, instead of what has been the answer that I often get is, well, we should just ban it because people on large properties should rake their grass, or not that anyone here said that, but that's what I hear from other people. They should rake their lawns more. So I'm inviting people to help us with that information, because this is sort of the dilemma I have with this issue, and at this point I'll still have it when we consider it, although my preference would be to have some sort of restriction, if not ban, on the blowers, if we're able to do that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Grimes. Any other commissioners wish to respond to excuse me, to public privilege? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the next section of our agenda, which is public comment. So this is the part of the meeting where if you wish to comment on anything that's actually on our agenda, including the stuff that's on the consent calendar, this is your opportunity to do so. Does anyone in the room wish to take advantage of public comment?
Crystal Blunt again, or can I just ask a quick question? I thought it was going to be on the.
We'll answer at the end, as you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be on agenda about the pool, and my only question is, since our pool is out of commission, Ardmore's pool, are you allowed, or the residents allowed to still purchase the pool passes like they would for the summer at that price and use them down at Belmont Hills?
Okay, we'll answer at the end. So we've written it down, and we answer questions at the end, as you know.
Okay, and then my other question is, since Ardmore Pool was a walkable pool for most of us, is there any thought to using either a township bus or something, or van, to transport people who might not have cars in this community that still pay taxes, still live here, and still want to use the pool, to get down to Belmont Hills to use the pool? Is another thought. I mean, we're losing a lot of opportunities that normally we would have for the summer, and I get it. We do need an updated playground, that's great. We do need an updated community center, that's great, and a Palm Center, that's great for the older people. But what are we doing for families that might not be able to go on vacation or other places or anything like that? I mean, what are we really thinking about what these kids in Ardmore are going to be doing with their summer, and where are they going? Great minds think alike. I'm waiting for an answer about what your answer is going to be.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make public comment?
Do I have to tell you what I'm talking to on the consent agenda? Which item? Does it help?
No, you can just talk
You
about
probably
it.
know
We'll
who I am
figure out
anyway.
what it applies
Okay.
to.
Colleen
We don't know what
Wortley.
they are either. It's okay.
Okay, you got the email.
Yeah.
And I'm also very tired, so I'm going to read this. I was going to
Okay, but
talk.
please
but-
introduce yourself first.
Okay, Colleen Wortley, and I live in Wynwood, and I'm on Penwyn Road.
Okay.
Good evening, Lower Merion Board of Commissioners and staff. On Monday, Chief McCoy met Maxine Dostes and myself on our street, Penwyn Road. Chief McCoy shared how the serpentine option will meet the proposed safety standards for the front portion of Penwyn Road. Ray Courtney and Chief McCoy spoke about this option after the police committee meeting last week. As noted here, Chief McCoy met with us, and we walked the front of the street, the serpentine configuration, to reinforce it as a safe solution. This was actually part 2 on the March 12th agenda just last week. This option actually meets the needs, both safety and the consideration for the front of the street, especially we have 3 families with small children, and for them having the ability to park in front of their homes. We as neighbors support the serpentine configuration and ask the board to support this option that Chief McCoy deems safe and takes into consideration the residents of the street. The diagrams, I sent you an email last night. Anyway, and it had 2 pictures in there. One was the one that came from the March 12th Police Committee meeting, and the other one was one that Chief McCoy gave us, submitted to a few of us, which we shared with the neighbors. He has really nice graphics. We want to thank Chief McCoy for his efforts, for the time to meet with us, and we want to thank you for consideration of this solution. I'm just going to name, a lot of the residents could not be here tonight, so it's Denise and Mark Morris, 405, Ruth and Roy Brader, 407, Deirdre Attia and Peter Meltzer, 409, Alicia and Nick Picard, 411, Michelle Stockton and Dan Snyder, 413, Maxine Dosteth and Steve Levy, 410, Bianca and Todd, they're my next door neighbors, I never get their last name right, Taganini, 406, and myself and my husband, Ken Wortley. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. My name's Michelle Stockton. I live at 413 Penwyn Road. So I just want to thank you and Chief McCoy for considering the serpentine configuration. We think the serpentine configuration offers benefits. We like the way it looks, to have the cars spread out along the road in an S pattern. It offers the possibility of spaces being available in front of the houses with children. That helps keep them out of the road when crossing the street. Those same houses have grandparents who visit, older people, some with mobility issues like my father-in-law who needs a walker. So we just want to thank you for your consideration, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
My name is Michelle Connor. I am a resident at 408 Penguin Road, and my family and I have lived there for roughly 22 years. The issue of parking on our street has been going on more than a year and a half. I'm a little late to the game and coming up here. Resolution to this matter has a profound impact on our street and our neighborhood, no matter which way it goes, no matter who's happy and who is not. Given the impact, I am astounded that not one member of the committee has verified that each household involved has been included in these communications and proposals. I have been to the 3 meetings held here, yet my household has not been included in any of the communications from the commissioner, fire chief, or any of the neighbors. The roll call that was just mentioned, 408, was not part of that. Several years ago, my mother was living with us. She was sick and needed medical care on a regular basis, either by us taking her to appointments or by an ambulance. On many of those occasions, I've had to call for an ambulance for her, and as you may know, very often when ambulance is called, the police are sometimes summoned as well. This happened on several occasions to the point where Matt Friend of the police department and I became friends because of the multiple times. There were a couple of occasions when navigating our old stairs and the awkward turn at the top of our stairs took the EMTs and the fire staff to figure out her exit. At no time was access a problem. A fire truck, an ambulance, and a police, all at once, going in and out of their vehicles, all in front of my house. That video showing the trash trucks, the doors opening from last week, that was the men getting in and out. The one driveway is to the right. The left is our property on that side. We are right in the middle. I am grateful for the care and concern that all of these services gave to my mom, and I thank you for that. I am the only resident of the street that has had this experience with so many emergency vehicles that occurred morning, noon, night, weekdays, and weekends, and at no time was access ever a problem. I implore you to reconsider installing 4-hour parking on both sides of the street, then reevaluate the future if needed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I've attending this meeting. I
If you could
appreciate.
start by introducing yourself.
I'm just Steve Levy, Penguin Road, and I just appreciate you guys even more as I'm staying here through the time here. You guys listen to a lot, you hear a lot, and you have to deal with a lot. So, thank you for your patience and your commitment. I was here, I think this is my 3rd meeting discussing Penguin Road, and at the last meeting with the fire chief saying to you all and everybody acknowledging it that safety was number 1. It overshadowed everything else. And he said, you know, I feel as long as it's safe, that's it. And he has come back to the people who were speaking before here and in this room, and he has come back and has said that the S that you have in front of you is safe. And so we're just asking you to consider that because, you know, it should be a nod. It's safe, he agrees it's safe, and it's good for it's a compromise, but it's good for the block and for the people on it. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you very much. And I'm amazed you guys can just keep staying. The staying power is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to take the liberty of going out of sequence to say this is still an early night. Okay, anyone else?
Very briefly, greetings, commissioners, staff, Ray from afar. Maxine Dodseth from Penguin Road, and I'm just here to reiterate what everybody else has said about safety and also the ability to kind of accommodate our neighbors with elderly and little children, so we've kind of looked at this collaboratively. Apologies to my neighbor, because at the time we did the petition, we only had 90% of the residents. So with that, things changed a lot and happened. We couldn't assume that we could get concurrence. So a lot of times, I think our neighbors were sharing information with 408, and, we appreciate all the neighborliness that happens on our street. So we just wanted to explain that a little bit, that we kind of had to go with those that signed the petition. But we just ask for the concurrence with Chief McCoy's recommendation, and thank you very much.
Anyone else in the room?
Denise Morris, 405 Penguin Road. Oh, Commissioner Whalen, don't leave yet. I wanted to address you because I know you've had some rumors about addressing the parking in the neighborhood. And Commissioner Kramer, you pointed out last week that our streets are open to the public. And somewhere between what you said and where we're at, you need to land when you explore this. I don't think anyone up here or here really expects our neighborhood to be an annex parking lot for Lower Merion High School, and that's what we've become. So keep that in mind when you move forward, and try to compromise between, yes, it is a public street, but there's 9 houses on the street. There should never be 75 cars in the neighborhood in the course of a day. There are more cars in our neighborhood than the 55 slots allowed for students at Lower Merion High School. So just consider that. Thank you. Now you may go.
Thank you.
Hi. Again, Megan May from Ardmore, and I feel as though I'd be remiss if I didn't, and this is my first time here, if I didn't mention that I take umbrage with your comment about the race of the 911 caller. I've called 911 twice.
We're only taking comment on agenda items at this point. This is not.
Well, then let me put it on the record that I take umbrage with that comment. I feel like it was a dog whistle, and it was...
So, ma'am,
Cool.
we do
Okay,
the rules.
thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment on agenda items?
Hi, I'm Peter Meltzer. I live on Penwyn Road. I was sort of advocating, we were originally advocating for the not having no parking anytime signs on our street, and Chief McCoy said that was not going to be safe and was not in our corner at that time, and so it was clear that we were not going to prevail on that. As has been pointed out, though, I do believe that he is in our corner now on the Serpentine issue, and that's important to our residents. I wanted to echo the comments of everyone else that now that he does agree with us, he did a walkthrough with it, my neighbors, that the Serpentine resolution is perfectly safe, and we definitely prefer that to any one-side-only option. And I think that Chief McCoy is now in our corner on this, and we would urge the Serpentine solution that my neighbors have also suggested now that Chief McCoy is in our corner on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room wish to take advantage of public comment? Okay, Jody, do you have anyone online? Excuse me. Okay. So does anyone wish to respond to public comment? Commissioner Kramer.
I'd like to respond to Ms. Blunt's questions and comments. We are looking into alternative pools near Ardmore. We are looking into transportation to other pools. And the cost at Belmont Hills will be at the Belmont Hills rate, but there will be reduced rates available for income-qualified residents.
Thank you, Commissioner Kramer. Commissioner Courtney.
Thank you, President Sinai, and thank you to the neighbors of Penwyn Road who came out and spoke tonight. I apologize I can't be there in person. My day job has required me to travel this week. I do plan to remove that item from the consent calendar so that we can revisit the Serpentine alternating sides option And for any neighbors who are unaware that this was coming, I know that our director of parking went door to door knocking and also leaving notices. If you did not receive that information, you can email me, let me know, and I can attempt to rectify the situation. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Courtney.
Thank you.
Vice President Kramer? Okay.
Thank you. Just to elaborate on the questions regarding the pool, I see people looking confused, and I know that there's often confusion about this issue of subsidies for pool memberships. So the township does offer subsidies for both pools for those who need them and who meet income guidelines. What are those income guidelines? You can find out in a number of ways. You can email, you can call the Parks Department, or you can email Commissioner Stevenson or myself. We both have that information, or anybody on the Parks Committee can get you that information so that you can know about the subsidies to make the pools affordable if you need that. With regard to the Ardmore pool fee, if we do acquire or secure a walkable pool option in Ardmore, we're hoping that we're going to be able to offer that at the Ardmore pool rate. People look confused. So you just contact me after, but I want people to understand we're continuing to try to work on a pool option that is going to be about equivalent in terms of cost. We don't do question and answer, but we can loop back after the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Vice
Yeah.
President Kramer. Commissioner Gafford.
Thank you, President Sinai. I guess I'm a little confused how the serpentine option is a compromise here. I think this ordinance is putting in the 4-hour limit, and I think that's wonderful. I think that will really help the residents. I think having cars on both sides, the residents talked about kids, crossing the street. Kids are now coming out from cars on both sides of the street instead of one side of the street if it's the serpentine. It doesn't alleviate any issues of half the people not parking directly in front of their house. It's just which half of the people, whether you're on one side or the other. With that said, emergency services said it's a safe option. If that's what the residents want, if emergency services says it's safe, so be it, and I'm not one to change that. So if that's what the residents want, if that's what emergency services says is safe, then that's fine with me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Gafford. Anyone else? Public comment, response? I'm trying to talk without in between coughs. I apologize, everyone. Okay, so that concludes that part of the meeting. We're going to move on to the consent calendar. Do any of my colleagues wish to remove anything from consent? I see Commissioner Courtney with his hand raised. Commissioner Courtney.
Yeah, thank you, President Sinai. As I mentioned, I'd like to remove, I believe it's item J on the consent calendar regarding Penwood Road.
Okay, so we'll come to that momentarily. I'm going to move that we approve the consent calendar with the amendment of excluding item J and including the items from the earlier Grants and Community Development Committee and the Open Space and Township Properties Committee meetings. Do I have a second? Thank you, Vice President Kramer. Any comment? Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
For the adoption of the consent calendar, Mr. Bernheim. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize he stepped out. Mr. Churchill.
Yes.
Mr. Courtney.
Yes.
Ms. Epstein.
Yes.
Mr. Gabbard. Mr. Grimes.
Yes.
Ms. S. Kramer.
Yes.
Ms. G. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Whalen. Oh, did he step out as well? Sorry, can't see that side. Mr. Woodring.
Yes.
Mr. Sinai.
Yes.
The consent calendar is duly adopted.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. Now we're going to move on to the item on the Police Committee. The way I'm going to do this is you make it as a motion and then let Commissioner Courtney propose an amendment. So we'll do a motion in a second and then an amendment proposal. Madam Secretary, what page of the packet is this on? Do you know?
It is probably the next to the last item, so it is page 17.
Okay, page 17 of your packet. So we have authorization to advertise ordinance, Chapter 145, Vehicles and Traffic, Penwyn Road and Bolsover Road parking changes. I'm going to move that we authorize the Township Secretary to advertise notice of intent to adopt an ordinance to amend the Code of the Township of Lower Merion, Chapter 145, entitled Vehicles and Traffic, Article 15, Schedules, Section 145, 115, Schedule 15, Parking Prohibited at All Times, to establish a no parking during certain hours regulation on the southwest side of Bolsover Road from Penn Road to Penwyn Road, and on the northeast side of Penwyn Road from Penn Road to Sabine Avenue, and to amend Article 15, Schedule, Section 145 to 118, Schedule 18, Parking Time Limited by establishing a 4-hour parking regulation from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. except weekends on the southwest side of Penwyn Road from Sabine Avenue to Bolsover Road, and to amend Article 15, Schedules, Section 145, 119, Schedule 19, Special Purpose Parking Zones, by establishing school-impacted zones in place of student permit parking zones, and to establish a school-impacted zone on both sides of Penwood Road, from Penn Road to Sabine Avenue, and to amend Article 7, Applications and Issuance of Permits, to remove provisions for student parking permits, and to provide for residential parking permits within a school-impacted zone. And the short translation of that is like that would just put it on one side of the street. Okay, do I have a second? Thank you, Vice President Kramer. So I'm going to skip the discussion of this and go straight to Commissioner Courtney. Commissioner Courtney.
Thank you again, President Sinai. So I will attempt to amend this to go back to the alternating side serpentine proposal, and the amendment is to replace the words the northeast side of Penwyn Road from Penn Road to Sabine Avenue with the words alternating sides of Penwyn Road between Penn Road and Sabine Avenue.
And is there a part that says on the southwest side of Bolsover Road from Penn Road to Penwyn Road? That stays the same.
That stays the same. So
Okay.
the Bolsover is unimpacted. This is just replacing the one side of Penwyn with the alternating sides language.
Great. Sorry, is there a second? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Epstein. Commissioner questions, or comments? Commissioner Grimes.
Yeah, I mean, really a question, and I'm not sure because our fire chief isn't here. I don't think, no. This is a switch from last week, when we had an extensive discussion about this. Is there an explanation that, I don't know, maybe someone else who's from staff who's here can provide about this, the change of mind on this?
Commissioner, this really isn't a change of mind. The fire chief was okay with either plan. When queried last week and said which one's the best, which one's perhaps the easiest, safest, all on one side, but he said the serpentine plan, which is actually a plan that he developed as an option for you to consider, is also perfectly safe and perfectly workable.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I'm not disputing what you said. I retained from last week the part where he preferred the other. He had a preference, but that's fine. That's an explanation, so thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from? Okay, so I will just echo what Commissioner Gavin said earlier, which is that, among the set of things that are above the threshold of safe, we should go with the ones that the people on the street prefer. They live there, they have to live with it every day, and don't see much to discuss beyond that. Other than that, I am sympathetic that to the point that was made in public comment, that we have these streets in the township that are ostensibly public streets, but they are getting privatized as parking lots for the use of people who do not live there, right? And that too is not a public street. A public street is when everyone has equal opportunity to use it, and it doesn't just get taken over. One of the priority options on the priority list is for the board to work on a more holistic and fulsome approach to this in the township, and that too is something that the commissioners can decide to work on should they want to try and get some traction on that this year. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we are voting on the motion, and then we'll vote on the amended. We're voting on the amendment. Thank you for looking quizzically at that. And then we'll vote on the amended motion. The amendment passes. So all those in favor of the amendment to convert it to the serpentine option, please raise your hand. Okay. We have 8 people? We do. Okay, so that's unanimous. We now have an amended motion. Anyone with comments on the amended motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, sorry, we get to do this by hand, right? Yes. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion as amended, please raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Okay, that too is unanimous. Okay, thank you. So the meeting had a long first part and a very short second part because we're now on to unfinished business. Is there any unfinished business to come before the board? Is there any new business? Okay, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.